Nice to have everybody here. Letha Bowles is out of town, taking care of her mom, so we've asked Janine to sit in as our alternate today. So she's aware, she's read the minutes, and she's ready to go. So I will call this meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's see here. Everybody got a chance to read the minutes? You got them, right? Yes? Were there any corrections or changes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second it.
Okay, there you
Who
go.
made the motion?
She's seconded
I'll
the
make the
motion.
motion.
Yeah. Any opposed? Thank you. It passed. Now, I know we can pass them with
Who
no,
seconded that?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
and that's why I always ask for that, because she will say, okay, who did what and whatever. So I know. Depending on what meeting you're in, sometimes you can pass them by consensus and what have you. By the way, don't look at yourself on the TV because we're a couple of seconds behind, so it really will mess you up.
Thank you.
So just don't look at it. We have some discussion and some news, I understand. So Jeannie Barlow, will you please approach the podium and give us an update?
Yes, I have some good news. Looks like we are almost there. We are almost there to the point where we can get to be a certified local government. I went over with you at the last meeting what the compromise was that we were going to suggest to the National Park Service. And I went through our state historic preservation office, and I finally received word back from him that the National Park Service had approved the compromise. So, what I have to do now is I have the section that I have revised, so I am removing the verbiage that says the consent of all property owners of each property proposed for designation is required. That's going out, and later on, under designation procedure, at E2, I have added to that paragraph, a decision to approve the designation of a historic district over an owner objection shall be by a supermajority, 60% vote. Modification of the boundaries of proposed historic district is not a reversal of a council recommendation, so long as a substantial portion of the recommended area is approved. So I will be preparing an ordinance amending this section of the code, and I will take it to council. It will require 2 readings. So once we get that done, we send it back to the state, and they send it off to the National Park Service. Our representative at the state does not see that there'll be a problem, and we should hopefully get our designation. as
You've come a
certified
long way.
local government. So,
Any anticipated time for that
well,
council meeting?
I was hoping possibly to get the first reading at the April 15th city council meeting, and then we'd do the second reading, the first meeting in May.
Is it just one hearing?
No, it's land use, so it'd be 2 public hearings.
Okay. So you don't need us there, but it's nice for us to know.
Well, I could use the support.
Yes, no, I,
Actually,
I'll
yes,
I'll make an effort to be there.
wonderful.
And I encourage anyone else who can be there, you know.
That'd be nice. Okay, so if there are no more questions on that, that's all I have.
That's wonderful. So basically, that's A, B, and C?
No, oh, okay. So we're moving on to B.
Okay.
So I would like to, so we have talked on several occasions about incentives to encourage property owners to come into the program and designate their properties. So I have a resolution that I would like to submit to the council for approval. And basically, it is a resolution outlining the incentives that we've all talked about. So the incentives would be under Exhibit A on the second page. We would call whoever came into the program, they would be in the 1920s club, and they would have no designation or COA application fees. Their permits, inspections, reviews, all would be fast-tracked. They would get a bronze marker designating membership in the program. They'd have a photo display of enrolled properties at the library, and they would get a family recreation center membership for 1 year. So if anybody has any questions or anything else they want to offer up as an incentive, I'd be glad to.
I have a comment. I think the incentives list is great. I might change the name of it, only thinking into the future when the mid-century modern
Well,
properties
These are not going to be in perpetuity.
Okay,
These are only for a little, to encourage people to come into the program. This won't be something that's going to be in place long into the future.
Okay.
Just want to jumpstart the program.
okay.
I have a question, Ms. Barlow. This would apply to any home from the 1920s or just to the 7 historic homes
No, any Mediterranean revival
in
home.
the Mediterranean Revival? Okay, thanks.
Do you have an informal sense about the level of interest among those homeowners?
Well, at the public meetings we had a good turnout, and there was interest. More people are interested than not interested. It's really slow to get off the ground. I think Marissa and I were talking about perhaps pushing it out again, a mailing. If these incentives are approved by council, we'll include the incentives along with an application. We'll once again send it out to the Mediterranean Revival property owners and encourage people to apply. It's, I guess nobody wants to be the first one. I don't know.
Sorry.
I have another question. If once, it's approved and we go out and start promoting this, let's say we get a resident who has a house that's from the 50s and they want, but we're focusing on the Mediterranean Revival.
Yeah.
So what do we tell those folks?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Marissa with Community Development. We are solely focusing on the 1920s houses just because I feel like we have a lot to backtrack with the 1920s. We also already have historic resource files on the 1920s houses, and we do not on the 1950s houses. So one of the incentives for the Certified Local Government Program is that they will grant grants for surveying, and so I'm hoping once we're in the CLG, then we can start applying for grants so we can start surveying those houses. If you look at a lot of the master site files, they have a lot of key details and information that is listed on there, and I just don't currently have those for the 50s. So I am very open to having 1950s houses. It's just I would have to do the bulk research, which is fine. I'm perfectly capable of doing the research. I don't always have the time to sit there at the, the county office and do deed research. And so that's kind of why we're steering clear of the 1950s houses, is just because if we can get grants to do the surveying for us, then I would have that information.
I wonder if it's worth making sure that any kind of branding that's done right now has looks to that future. So maybe not solidifying in people's minds that this will only cover 1920s Mediterranean Revival homes, but that, there may be a future where we've got the 1950s homes and the mid-century moderns.
And it will, and as houses get older and older, we can start surveying into those because historic preservation designation starts at 50 years. So we can start, we'll do the 1920s, and then I don't believe we have maybe one 1930s house or 40s house. There wasn't a lot of land development. The land development then came again in the 50s. And then we can start doing the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and just keep on progressing and getting those surveys done and then determining what houses would be eligible for historic preservation designation.
But we have mid-century houses that are 50 years old.
We do.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
living
don't,
in
I
one.
don't have resource surveys on them.
Yeah, okay, all right.
What does a resource survey comprise?
It's gonna be the deed research.
Okay,
So you can go all the way back to the original owner. It's going to be the architect research, building construction, and how the historic significance of that house, and whether there is any that could be designated on the local level or the national level, or if it even could potentially be eligible for a district.
okay.
It's a lot of
Interested- Yeah,
it's a lot of research.
right, but I have access to some of that.
Right. So the county's website only goes back to 64.
Right,
So some of we would still have to get back to some of those earlier dates.
okay,
So, and that's microfilm at the clerk's office.
okay.
Yeah, I do think it's not a bad idea to say we're starting with this group.
Right,
And
we're
that as-
starting with the 20s.
Right, and that as we, as we move forward, we'll definitely, because there are people right now who are working in that direction on their 1952 houses. And so we want to keep them moving in that direction and not tear it down and
Right.
build something else.
Yep. Yeah, so again, once we get that CLG certification, then we can start applying for grants to have these surveys done on those 1950s houses.
That's a good,
Or even updating the surveys on the 1920s houses.
I know I'm not on the committee, but I know there's one house from the 1920s that did not. There's one house from the 1920s that did not do the appropriate updates and change the look of the home. So they probably wouldn't be eligible.
I need to know what house it is.
Okay.
You don't have to tell me now.
It's off of Inverness. It's a house when I'm heading down towards the clubhouse, and it's on the right, and it was like the second house in. And I can't think of the name of the street right now. But I was really disappointed when I saw it, the changes.
On Inverness?
Off of Inverness. There was a
Off
street
of Inverness, okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toe.
well, I know that Woodmont Clubhouse, because it started as a barn,
Yes.
any changes to it would,
Yeah,
You
Woodmont
know.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And Jeannie and I have talked about
yeah,
starting with Woodmont just because it is a city-owned property. There is little to no historic fabric left of the
exactly.
building.
Because it started as a barn.
Yeah, it was
So
a
you'd have to
stable.
take it back to being a barn, and we're not interested in that. So it has significance to us as.
Which would
it wa-
qualify
Because
for-
it was things like our first school, and then it became the rec center, and, so it has that type of significance, but beyond that,
No, that one would only be eligible for local designation.
Yeah.
just Because,
yeah. Because we don't want to go back to being a barn.
no.
Yeah, so, okay.
have
Any
a related
any other,
question.
Jeannie?
I stopped there recently to read the plaque, the metal plaque, and it says it was built in 1925, but the actual building has a sign that says 1923. I was just curious.
Which is the plaque that's, the big green marker?
Well, the metal,
Do you remember which one it was for?
There's one for Bertha
Well,
Palmer.
Bertha Palmer's is right there, I believe, in front of Woodmont. I can't
Yeah, I'll
remember
have
what the
to, you know how it
exact.
is, you go there
verbiage
all
on
the
that
time
is.
and don't read it. But it's my understanding that the building, the barn was built in 23. I don't know,
I
did
think
the
it was
horse,
built-
did
it
the
was-
cart,
it
did the
was
barn come before the?
23 Because you have to think that the city was already being developed. So if it was Bertha Palmer's stable, that would have been before she passed away, which was 1918, I believe.
Right, but again, what are they referring to? The building that was wrapped around the stable? Maybe that was built in 23? I have no idea how that designation came
I
about.
believe it became a school in 23.
Well, I
Interesting.
was just curious to know.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
I just had one more.
Okay,
And
yes,
Not to
please.
belabor the point, but going back to the name of the incentive program, do you foresee that changing in the future as more properties are eligible for historic designation? Would you have like a 1950s club or a 1960s club? Or would it stay the 1920s club?
So I would be open to taking 1920s out if you think it's going to cause a problem. I mean, it was a suggestion from somebody. I thought it was a good one, but we don't have to call it anything. It could just be incentives.
I like the idea of a club. I like the 1920s club. I just don't think it incorporates future growth as the program evolves and more properties are added. So I think just considering maybe a name that's broader and more inclusive of all of the properties we're hoping to incentivize people to enroll in the program. And we can maybe brainstorm later. I can think of some suggestions.
But you may have given them the suggestion on how to handle it in your remarks, is that this is the 1920s club, and then when
And then
we
there's
open it to the
more.
next group, we're like the 1950s, and, and then none of us will be here when we get to the 1970s or 80s, whatever.
Right.
I won't be here.
I mean, if this takes off and it brings in a lot of interest, eventually we won't need the incentives.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Well, I have a question on the incentives. Has council had any conversation of any monetary, other than no fees and things like that? What do other cities
We
do?
do have money in the budget for the bronze markers. Everything else will just, I don't see, the fast tracking, it's not gonna be really a cost. Photo display of enrolled properties, that's not gonna be much of a cost, and we can absorb the Family Recreation Center memberships. So the only thing that's a cost would be the bronze marker, and we already have put money aside in the budget to purchase those.
Okay. So no tax relief or anything like that?
When you designate your property, if you want the tax incentive, the 20%, 10%, you have to designate your property. So this would be like an incentive for somebody who is about to do a major restoration. So you designate your property, the tax assessor's office comes out, they assess the property, then they come back out and assess after the project is complete. And so the difference in the assessment is what you're given tax relief on for 10 years. But
So-
you have to designate first.
So is there a way to add that in some way that you are eligible for?
We could list that.
Because that is definitely something that people would be interested in. But
Right.
it's not a given. There's a process.
There's a process.
So there just needs to be a way to say eligible, this makes you eligible for the process toward a tax
You're only
reduction.
eligible for the historic property. If you do, let's just say, 1,000 square foot addition, that addition is not eligible for the tax incentive.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe the wording needs to be that you would then be a candidate or eligible for this program, not guaranteed, or, in other words, not saying what they're eligible for, but that they're not even eligible to apply until they do this, right?
They have to be
So-
designated first.
Right. So this makes you eligible to apply for that tax reduction.
Yep, we can
Yeah.
look into adding that as well.
Be a wordsmith and make it up, yeah. Okay. Did anybody have any questions about that? Would you agree with
I
that?
agree that would seem to be essential, because when you talk to people, that's the first thing they mention. Oh, yeah, there are tax credits that go with that. In people's minds, they associate that, but that's one of the key benefits. So I think it should be listed too.
Everybody agree?
Yeah.
We agree by nodding, that it's something for you to,
The only
Pursue.
difference is that is an incentive that is always gonna be there.
It's not
So
part of the
if we include it on this, they might be confused that it's gonna go away at some point. I don't want them to be, anybody who sees these incentives, I don't,
so are these, why would any of these go away?
these are just incentives to get people into the program. Once they're in the program and we get the program up and running, we can continue to do things like bronze markers, but family rec membership might get a little costly if we have a lot of people in the program. And it's just, that's definitely just an incentive to get this whole thing started.
So this is an early bird special.
Yay, yes.
Okay. I don't think you want to make it any more complicated than it is already. Maybe there's a way to say, for this initial application, the initial applications or whatever, it will be, I have not read the resolution, so I don't know if that would have to be changed in any way. But most of this, with the exception of the membership, everything will stay.
Can, if
Yeah.
the board wants to continue with the bronze markers, absolutely, then we can keep funding that in the budget.
Well, and our initial target is only 60, approximately 60 homes.
Not even,
So that can't be that costly. We'll take what we can get.
I agree, there has to be some sort of incentive at some point that if we get rid of them, then what do we have? The tax, which is always there, and maybe the bronze marker. But if we want to continue generating interest and getting new people in, as new people move in and as the houses become older, I think, they should stay for
so do you want me to
perpetuity.
add the tax incentives on there?
I think you should, because that's always going to be there.
Mhm.
If the only thing that isn't going to be there, for a long period, is the rec center, take the rec center out and say something to the effect that, for this initial application, I don't know anybody who would go to all this trouble to get a rec center. I love the rec center. Please don't anybody say that Sherry Donahue didn't say that wasn't of value, but it's not, compared to the other things, which all really focus on the home.
You don't think that's necessary to keep that in there?
I don't, if I have to put one or the other in there, and knowing that the other thing will always be in here, and the only one that may or may not be here would be the rec center, I would take the rec center out.
Or
Yeah,
just
or-
add it.
And/or add a line that says for a limited time only.
Something to that effect.
For the initial stage of the first, kind of like a bonus, and then
A
eventually.
centennial bonus through the end of 2025.
That's right.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Very good.
All right, so are we agree by consensus on
Yes.
this one? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the consensus on that?
You agree? Since you're the one working in that.
So what is your agreement on?
The agreement is that we will add the tax incentive.
eligibility.
They will rewrite that to say that you're eligible to apply, okay? And then remove or drop down the recreation center to for a limited time, this is being offered. I realize this all has to go before council, so.
Okay.
That makes sense for you? Okay. Okay. All right, well, Marissa, I'm guessing that you're up for the next one. The program interest to date.
We don't have anybody applying yet.
They just didn't know the incentives.
Right, so I'm hoping now that though we've established the incentives, as soon as council passes those, and then Jeannie, like Jeannie said, we'll be mailing out applications and a letter with the incentives, and so that way it will go to all the 1920s homeowners, and then
There's-
hopefully we'll get some.
There's definitely a misconception out there about the process.
Right,
Because I just spoke to someone who was wanting to sell her house. I know you spoke to her as well, and she wanted to get it done right now so that her house would not get torn down.
yes, I think she thought it was just a form she had to fill out, and I was just like, no, there's a process, so.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, and
But that
definitely.
house is also an excellent contender for the tax incentive, because they will be doing work.
Yes.
Yes, true.
So-
Yes. So you have your homework cut out for you. Find out who the new owners are.
Yeah.
Talk to them. As well as the house at the corner of Bullard and Ridgedale.
Yes, that house has sold. It is zoned. I'm sorry? 234 Bullard, yes, it has sold. And we actually got the application for the site plan, which does include keeping the historic building. So,
So
Yes.
we're getting there.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So now I know that we, as the board members, are not allowed to approach someone, but in conversation, I want to make sure that, it's, in conversation with someone, we can say, well, this is what we know, and then send them in your direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Send anybody who has
Yes.
any interest, you can send to me.
Yes, and that is what I told that homeowner. I said, you're talking to the wrong person. I have an official capacity on this, but I am not the person who can lead you to the right method of applying. So, okay, we're all on board on that, we understand. I mean, you can have a conversation with somebody about it. You just can't help, you can't do anything else, that's it. Just send them on to Marissa or Jeannie.
There's-
Both of them are be more than happy to start them down that path.
When you start getting the word out again, though, there's some misconception on how much involvement the city's gonna have in their restoration process. And also then they're gonna say, okay, well, they're gonna be watching out for us, but are they watching over us too much? That's what they're trying to
Right,
figure
and
out.
when people do come and talk to me about designating a historic property, I do try to educate them on what it means, that it's only the exterior of the building. The city won't be over any interior work, and we're just trying to make sure that the exterior remains, keeps that historic value.
Okay.
Wonder if it would be worth it if we don't have this somewhere already, like an FAQs or common misconceptions answered
Oh, adding that
on
onto
the website. Because then, we as board members can memorize those and we can point people to the website too.
Yeah, we can look into adding that as well.
I was wondering, Ms. Robinson, if during the May 3rd celebrations, if we could have, or if we will, I don't know, literature to explain this. I don't know if there's time, but a flyer or brochure or something that would explain this program and that we can pass out to people while they're at the big event. And then if we do or do not have a presence there, I don't know, but somebody to explain if people come up to us and ask questions, because not everybody might go to the website right away. People do, if they see a sign, it says Temple Terrace Historic Preservation, and there's a flyer, they might pick that up and be interested. And then we provide the website there. I don't know, I'm just thinking of ways of increasing the outreach other than just the website.
Right, we can look into that as well.
I don't know if there's a budget for that, or even if, I know you're juggling, 100 things at once, but if you do have, the time or, the budget to create something that we could pass out on that day.
Yeah, I think they can as a board.
Don't you have a brochure already on this? I thought you passed out something, it might have just been a flyer type thing and not a brochure.
I know it was a mailer flyer, yeah. So it doesn't have a lot of information on it. I think it was a meeting notification, so.
Well, you have all of, 8 weeks, 6 weeks? to get that thrown together. I agree with you, and anything about this needs to be at the city's booth, because we are not capable of manning a booth from 10 to 6.
Right.
And so to have a
Sherry and
standalone,
myself, who are on the Centennial Committee,
correct. We all have other places to be that
we
day.
will be busy.
You're right. So if anything like that could be put together,
And just passed out at the city.
have it at the city's booth, like other things that will be there at the city's booth. But, you know, I agree, it would be a way, it seems to be such an opportunity that we would hate to
There's so
to
much
miss.
going on, and now we are, you know, we have this ordinance, we have the incentives, the program, so find every way to reach people would be my idea.
Well, even if it weren't a brochure, but a flyer, hey, anything helps. And a QR code that leads them to our website.
And I can see if marketing, well, I can try to work with marketing to put something together.
Okay, thank you.
They're gonna love us, marketing.
Well, before you sit down, I have one more question about that. Have we entertained a workshop with contractors?
Not yet, no. Our primary goal has been, again, getting that certified local government established and then start designating. But again, after the certified local government is, they actually, that is one of the benefits of being a certified local government, is that they can work with people to set up workshops.
Okay, oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm glad I asked that question.
That's why we're really trying to
Yeah.
get that certified local government established.
Bill
And it
make-
is a free program for us to be in, so it's no cost for us.
It's wonderful to know.
Right, it is a really great program.
You know, you hate for someone to be talking to someone who has no idea what is required, and then they lead them down the wrong path by putting in some windows that they could have gone this way, but they went this way. So, oh, I'm really happy to hear that. That's good news.
Yep.
That's good news. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, any other, what should we talk about next time? And when is our next meeting? I guess that's what I should say. We keep coming back every month because we're just sure you're going to have something to tell us. And I see we do have a member of the public here. If you, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I,
Oh, well, then you're on the inside.
I do, Madam Chairperson, I want to raise the point again about Sutton Hall and see if we have any updates on that, either, you know, from one of our guests here or from anybody else. And also if you, as a board, would consider extending an invitation to the president of Florida College to maybe come in for a chat with us and show us what the design is for the new structure, if there is a finished design. It'd be nice if we had an idea of what it is that Florida College intends to do there. So I'd like to propose that we extend an invitation to the president of Florida College.
The only problem I have with that is that the real place for the president to go and make that presentation is to city council. Because remember, our job is to bring homes that are here and encourage them to become registered. Okay. We have absolutely, it will be interesting, and that's about all it would be. I mean, we couldn't say to them as a body, you're going down the wrong path, or boy, we really like that, we give you our stamp of approval. If we, you know, if they were preserving that building, we'd be all over it, okay? And it would be in our purview to do that. So I know that the mayor, after attending the last meeting, did make a stronger outreach to the president, and I understand that he toured the building, and, you know, some of you may have seen the photos that came from that building, which were very sad to see, but the concession. So I'm sure you know more about that, what you can add.
I can say that myself with the marketing department already have some dates that we are going to go through Sutton Hall, and we're going to be doing video recordings So that is set in place for the end of this month, just so we can document the building. At that time, I'll also ask them about the LiDAR, if they've gotten any further with doing LiDAR surveying. And I can also say that any new building that comes through will come through my department as well. So, not that I can say you need to design it this way or that way, that I can't do, but
No, I understand the limitations clearly. But I think we should know, before the bulldozers arrive, what is going to happen there. And he and a group of people came in front of the council one time, and they, as an invitation, it was not a hearing, it was just a public talk. And at that point, they didn't have a clear idea of what it was that they were going to do. Subsequently, I've heard that there is some sort of design completed. Whether they will go back in front of the council, I don't know, in regards to that topic. But if not there, why not here? I know that we are focusing on the process of the designation of properties, of historic properties in our community. But we should also, this is my very personal belief, be an advocate for saving structures that are linked to our community historically, even if they're not in the property of the city. Otherwise, our scope is very, very limited, you know. And so I agree, we're not here, you know, it would not be sort of an inquisition to tell this person, your design is not appropriate, or it is, but at least to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
I can't think of being in a place and somebody asking me, oh, you're part of the board, what are they doing with Sutton Hall, or what are they doing with the 234 Bullard Parkway house? And we say, oh, I don't know. That's my view.
I hear you, but let's ask this question. Let's say 234 Bullard, she comes in next week and she applies for a demolition. Because she got in there and she said, it's too much, I can't do it. I don't know right now, I mean, there would be no legal way for us to tell her no. So we would all shed tears over that, right? Because that's part, that, the gates were there. Those two properties were the entrance. So we don't want that to happen, but we as a board and city council, we have no legal, we can encourage them and we should. And I would say that if city council does invite them to come back, and what is the review process? I mean, what clout do you have as a community development on their design?
Site plan review. I think, I honestly, because we don't know, I can't say, but.
Right, right.
Somebody, his microphone is not on.
Oh,
Yeah, if they were to do like a site plan application, that would go through community development. Building plans will go through community development. So the department would be able to see it at that level. But again, we can't tell them how to design their building.
Right.
it is frustrating. I feel your frustration. I just know that if we ask them to come here, that we are really overstepping our bounds
It's
in a
not within the
big
scope
way.
of
If
this.
anything, they should be invited to go to city council. And we, as a board, want to make sure we're there, which then we could ask questions, not because we're on the board, but because we're citizens.
Not during the presentation.
But at some, oh, that's true. I guess if we knew that they were coming, we could pose the question to one of our councilmen, say, what do you think about this?
But the mayor's been in touch with the college and tried to do whatever they can do, but their hands are tied, is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
And it saddens us all to see that go down.
So did I read this somewhere? They did make some concessions on not tearing it down before the River Jam.
Yes, they won't tear
Yeah.
it down before our centennial celebration.
Yeah.
It will be afterwards. But so we don't know.
My first request was 26, and they said, we can't wait that long.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, as far as the city knows, we don't know any design plans or anything yet.
yeah.
And I think that's totally inappropriate. I think it's a lack of courtesy, a lack of respect from that college towards the city. It's not being transparent, and from a Christian standpoint, which they are, is so hypocritical. It's just unbelievable to me that the emblematic building of this community, the most important building of this community, and we have no idea of what's going to happen there, other than a demolition.
Well, our forefathers didn't put those safeguards into place.
Not at all. It looks like it was when we read the deed or the transfer of the property, it was the shortest document I've seen. Everything else we've ever done is, pages and pages, and that thing was just basically,
A warranty deed.
we agree. Yeah.
Ms. Mooney, could we make a motion to ask the city council to invite the president of Florida College to come present the design
To this committee?
to the council, the city council, and the mayor, but in public?
I would leave that for council to do.
Yeah.
I'm not stepping on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, I didn't have my mic on.
I discussed this with the mayor, and we were trying to come to grips with how we stayed in our wheelhouse and council has the upper hand, and I agreed that it should go to council, and I know that every single council member is anxious to know what's going on, but I feel like the mayor has made that step and went on that tour because he knew that all of us felt the way we did. And so the information that he shared, I believe, with all of us about what they said they would try to do, restore some things, not restore the thing, but put a facsimile to look like that.
We're lucky that they're allowing us into the building to take videos. They don't have to do that.
Oh, I understand, it's a private property, they don't have to do any of this.
Yeah,
But as members of the community and as neighbors who own a building that is so significant, it's just decency.
sadly, we can't regulate that.
And they have worked with the mayor and the city council within the scope of what they can and can't do.
Or
And
will, not can, will do.
you're on the right direction, that's exactly, to be honest with you, that was more than I expected
Right.
when the mayor went on that tour. And
And
I don't
they
know,
are-
I don't know who else was with him.
No, but my understanding is they're gonna incorporate some of the items into the build and do what they can to keep some of the historical situations preserved. It's a shame, yes it is, but the building itself also is quite expensive to restore, and there are no funds available for it, either through the college or through the city. The city can't even afford to say, hey, we give you some money to fix this up. So our collective hands are tied at this point. And, yeah, I wouldn't recommend, yes, as much as we hate to see it happen, I wouldn't recommend putting down those people that are trying to do the best they can with what they've got.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us are limited in letting them know that we're still interested, and we encourage them to do the right thing, which would be to make it appear as historical as possible and not put up some, I mean, they do have height restrictions and other things. There are some things we can control. but that, to just keep encouraging them to be a good steward of the city they live in.
Right, but we don't know that.
No, we don't, but we.
That's my point, it's not, I'm not putting them down, it's just that I want some transparency. And rather than us here be guessing of what could happen, have the people involved just be upfront and tell us.
Well, same thing applies. I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. They come in next month and it's all glass, has nothing to do with history. We still can't do anything about that. We can be as angry as we are, and we can say, this is not what we expected, this is what we didn't want this, why are you doing this? And they're like, well, we think this is a new way we're going. And community development, city council, there's nothing we can do. So at this point, I think we just have to keep encouraging the college to do the right thing. I know that sounds not like what you want to hear from this group, and I would like for everyone to weigh in, please, so that it's not just me making this decision. I'm not making this decision. I'm just telling you that my belief is that we need to do what we have been given the job to do, and hopefully soon we can really do that. Every month we can approve somebody new or get them on the way. And then in the meantime, the sad reality of that building is sad reality.
It sounds like we don't have the standing to demand transparency.
Correct.
If I'm understanding correct.
Or anything else.
Or anything else. So it's a matter of being outreach and
True. We
liaising.
may not have the standing, but I don't think we lose anything by inviting and trying to get information.
The mayor's doing just that.
Right, but
He's
that's the
working
mayor,
on it.
that's not us. And
Well,
we
it's
are
outside of our scope.
to ask for information?
Absolutely.
Why?
It has
In our
nothing to do with this committee.
Well,
And the mayor is the one
the
representing.
mayor is coordinating with this committee, and he's reporting to us his activities, so
Correct, so he is.
he is
handling-
making us involved.
Yes, but we don't have any,
I think he's
Jurisdiction.
making us involved because we had
he's
such a
informing
discussion.
us because we were concerned and are concerned and still are concerned, as is he. And he has reached out to the college and is keeping us as informed as possible. Yeah.
Well,
But
my-
as far as us reaching out to them, I think that's outside of our scope when the mayors are representative.
My understanding is that they're still in the planning stage. The woman I spoke to when I visited the building said that they're trying to figure out how to keep the dormer in the new building. So to me, there's still time for input. If we could somehow have a chain of communication to find out, what are the plans?
Well, and that, our chain of communication is through the mayor. He speaks for us in that he speaks for all of us, all of the committees, not just our preservation. So we need to let that be the person who does it and not us as a separate board from other things, separate from community development, separate from the council. So I think you're absolutely right. We need to go through that, and anytime the mayor has anything to tell us, I'm sure he will, because he knows that this is a topic that we're very interested in.
Yeah, he came to our meeting and we expressed to him our sincere concerns, and I understand he's working on that. That's,
And he would have been here, except he's up in Tallahassee.
okay.
That's right. Did they fly up there or drive?
They tried to fly, but they found out they did not have a flight.
So they're going to be up there a while. Yeah. So, well, thank you. Thank you. I hear you. I feel like this.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just want to make my point and for the
You
record
did
that
very
I
nicely. I
disagree.
appreciate that.
But that's okay, that's okay. I'll keep I'll keep at it.
Okay, all right. Anything that you want on the agenda for, sorry, you tried, for next month? Anybody? No? Any ideas from you? Anything that you feel like we need to put on the agenda? I mean, obviously, we're constantly being updated, so. When is the resolution going
I will
before?
not have anything to report
Okay,
at the next meeting, because the very earliest I can get the first reading of the ordinance is April 15th. So then the second reading would be the
Okay.
May meeting.
all right.
So remember, it's not, I mean, if we don't have anything to discuss at this point, it's not required we meet unless there's something
Correct.
that you want to
Would
discuss.
you-
So should we meet in May then?
I was
Well,
just
the
going
fourth
to ask.
Wednesday in May is May 28th. May 28th is the actual day that the city was incorporated as a city.
Oh, wow.
So that is going to be, the employees are planning a big celebration on that day, so.
And not that it matters to everybody here, my grandson is graduating that day, so.
Well, that's nice.
From high school, okay, you know.
Okay, that's still nice.
Still in the company.
It's not like it's kindergarten, it's,
Fourth Wednesday,
June, maybe?
When does code board?
or the second Wednesday.
So could we do the third Wednesday?
Yes. Well, it depends on the availability of the board.
Well-
June?
June, we could, yes, if you want to meet the fourth Wednesday in June.
No, the fourth, oh, yes, the fourth Wednesday of June, yeah.
For the next meeting?
That would
Would it
be
be-
the 25th.
Would it be possible that you would have heard something back by that point?
Probably not. They,
slow.
it takes
Okay.
several months. I would love to say yes, but I'm not anticipating that we will hear anything.
so are we saying June 25th? Just to be safe? So that means we're skipping April and May. I understand skipping May.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you don't want to be in a
Are we
meeting.
keeping all the same things on the agenda?
No.
Just
No, well, you may have things to add to the agenda before, because of that delay. So we have the date of June 25th has been proposed. Anybody have a problem with that date? Are you traveling around the world at that point?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Everybody else okay on that date? Okay. All right, so then I think we agree by consensus that our next meeting will be June 25th, which seems so far away, but it'll be here before we know it, and since,
For agenda items for next meeting, just say you'll prepare them?
yes, yes, okay. Is there any other business to come before this council? Board? I'm never sure what we are. Board, thank you. If not, I consider this meeting closed. Thank you, everybody. We always have such lively discussion. Thank you.
Yes.